There was a time when humans played games that had names like Pong, Space Invaders, Ms. Pac-Man, and it was a good time. Then a new age dawned, and before you knew it, everyone had video games on their phones. Now, if you're wondering if you can see those early arcade game innovations here at the Henry Ford, well, you bet your Donkey Kong you can.
Generations of people grew up playing video games, which began decades ago when game makers wanted to use emerging technology to bring popular arcade games into the home. The Henry Ford's curator of communication and information technology, Kristen Gallerno, showed me a collection of early video games that ushered in a new era of home entertainment.
This I recognize.
Right.
Pong.
It's over 40 years old at this point, so 1972 is the time when the coin-op version of Pong came out. Then this version came out in about 1975 for the home market.
For the home, and that was a very big deal.
Yeah, it absolutely revolutionized video games in the home. And what it is it's a two-player game. The only rule is simply don't miss the ball and win the highest score.
So two kids or adults
Sure.
playing this side by side.
Yep. And then you're controlling sort of something that looks like table tennis.
To keep players engaged, game makers like Atari began creating games that were easy to learn but hard to master.
This is the Atari 2600, and this is considered to be one of the most important gaming machines of the golden era of the home video game revolution. And with this, your game controller is starting to get a little bit more complex. You've got like a stick that you can move, and you've got a button here that you can use to fire. When this was released in '77, there were 9 cartridges. It was in production for something like 14 years. By the time Atari started to go downhill, there were over 400 games.
As video games became more complex, new platforms or systems needed to be created to play them.
The Intellivision is from 1979, and this word is actually like a mashup of 2 words, intelligent and television. They were the first system that was really in competition with Atari. If you think, before video game consoles came along for the home, people just basically had to watch whatever was on TV, but now you could suddenly take control of your television, and you could tell it how you wanted to be entertained.
We take it for granted today, but controlling your TV was a foreign concept in 1979. Pretty soon, companies were making lots of games, ultimately to their own detriment.
The market was just too saturated with too many different kinds of games. In 1983, Atari started to realize they were failing, so they trucked a lot of material out to the desert and they buried it in a New Mexico landfill. And this is what this is, material from the world's first video game excavation. So, isn't that great? And a lot of people thought this was an urban legend. I grew up thinking this was an urban legend, and it wasn't until last year, this documentary crew, they went out to the desert and they found it, pretty close to the site of the first atomic bomb.
The Atari burial was only one incident in the massive video game recession of 1983 that required innovation to breathe life back into the industry.
This is really the major comeback. Nintendo actually is considered to be the console system that single-handedly rose the industry back up.
In all seriousness, what's the best thing you can say about video games, especially to people who say, gosh, is it a good thing that my kid is home so many hours playing these?
I just think they really have the potential to lead to creative ways of thinking about computing and how we use computing in culture. They are able to be a creative platform for kids.
And who knows, in the future, you may need those gaming skills, or it could be game over.